If you guys know anything about Anguimorphs and toxicoferan lizards in general, you'll know that the very famous venomous ones are often the monitor lizards, like the Komodo dragons. However, here in the States, the famous one is this right here. This is a Gila Monster, which is such an amazing lizard. And it's actually quite important to the study of toxicoferans and their evolutionary relationships in general. And that's because of the similarities that this guy shares with the snakes. So if you notice, one of the things he's doing is he's beginning to flick his tongue. And he's doing that because this is kind of his way of seeing the environment. They do have okay eyesight, but his main way of sensing things is his tongue. Now the tongue itself is actually quite forked. And the reason for that is because with a forked tongue, when they're picking up scent particles, say of his prey, which might be like a young rabbit or a mouse, whatever side of the tongue gets more particles is whichever way he's going to be able to go. So it's kind of like a homing device for whatever he's looking for. And he takes that tongue in and he sticks it in the roof of his mouth into something called the Jacobson's organ. And this organ is very important and is actually unique to Toxicofera as a whole. And you've probably heard of that organ before in things like snakes. And that is just one of the things they share with them. Now, one of the first things you'll also notice about this lizard is his skin. You'll notice it's very bumpy, and this is where the name Heloderma comes in. Because even though the word helo in Greek sounds similar to sun, a lot of people might think it'd be sun skin, actually that would be helio. So the name helo actually means nail head, that was the Greek's word for like a building nail, and that's why we call them that, because their skin almost looks like the studs on a nail. Now, each of those studs is actually separate from their skeleton, with an exception of the ones on the head, which are built in. But most of the body, they're completely separate, and it acts kind of like a suit of chainmail, because there's a little tiny bone bead under each one. Now, monitor lizards have this same thing. It's just not as pronounced as it is in this lizard here. And that is actually quite important to their survival, because they're not the biggest lizards in the world. And because they're not very big, they might actually have a lot of predators, coyotes, hawks, perhaps even a very large rattlesnake or gopher snake might have a go at them, and they need to have the skin to help protect them from these creatures. And believe it or not, on a larger Gila monster, the skin actually is often enough to stop a bite from even some of the venomous snakes like rattlesnakes. And as you can tell right now, they don't like being exposed too much, so this is kind of why he's trying to move into this brush a little bit. And he's just flicking his tongue and looking for a place to hide. Now, like I said, burrows are their typical spots, but they also will look for prickly pear cactuses and even fallen saguaro skeletons to give them a good place to hide or bed down. Now, in terms of eating, these guys are pretty opportunistic. They are certainly carnivores. They don't eat any plants. But for prey, they are really just looking for anything they can find. They love eggs as a treat. They'll eat small birds, small mammals. Baby rabbits are actually one of their favorite prey sources. They will eat snakes, small lizards, pretty much anything, any meat source they'll go for. Now, one of the things they'll do is, because their bodies are so small and compacted, again, because they're closely related to snakes, is they'll actually try to maneuver their way into these burrows if they can smell a source of food, whether that be some animal young or perhaps even an adult animal if it's small enough. And if there's nothing in the hole, then they will simply leave. Or if there is something in the hole, they'll get a meal. If not, they'll leave. And these lizards are actually intelligent enough to know to come back to the hole on clockwork to wait till that animal is back in the hole. So how cool is that? These guys definitely show their resemblance to their monitor lizard relatives when it comes to intelligence. They actually have one of the highest brain to body ratios among Toxicofera. And it's that intelligence that allows them to have that small home range and control their territory. In terms of breeding, they are going to be breeding during the the springtime or early summer, and then having babies short after. Again, breeding not just like snakes, not too long after they come out of brumation. Intraspecific combat between this species is not common, but it also does happen. Males have been seen fighting each other for the right to mate with the females. But of course, that is not something that happens. Now, unfortunately, these guys are not doing the best in a lot of their range. While they are rated as stable in many areas, the IUCN rates them as near threatened. And this is for a few reasons, mainly habitat fragmentation, because as new farms and developments are erected, these guys lose their homes. And because in their range, which is Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, Colorado, they need to hibernate because in the winter months here it's just simply too cold for these lizards. And they escape the winter by going into the holes in the ground. They may dig their own, they might use a mammal burrow, regardless. And unfortunately, when a new development goes up, that gets destroyed. Another issue is, even if the lizard is found and relocated, these guys have actually quite small home ranges, and they'll use their sense of smell to make it back to their home range, and they'll expend all their energy moving to a place. And another reason that is really sad is over-collection, and that is why in the state of Arizona, and everywhere where these guys live, they're actually protected by law, which is very important to do. Because without those protections, not only would these lizards be facing threats from developments, but people might actually over-collect these, because in the pet trade, these lizards are very highly prized and go for a high price on the black market. So luckily, the protections have been helping them quite a bit. But an important thing to save these lizards is education. As you can tell, these lizards are very docile, and they just want to be left alone. A Gila Monster will never attack you. The only reason they'll ever bite you is if they're molested or captured, or they feel threatened. So if you see a Gila Monster in the wild, please just take a step back, enjoy the lizard from a safe distance, take your pictures, take your videos, and just leave him on his way. He wants absolutely nothing to do with you. He just simply wants to leave. But regardless, this creature is one of the most iconic animals out here in the desert, and it is something that, as long as we protect and as long as we do our best to take care of this animal and give it its right to live in its home, will hopefully be here for a long time. I want to thank you all so much for watching this video and being a part of the channel. This has been an absolutely amazing experience, and I just really want to thank the Arizona Game and Fish Department for making this all possible. And just one thing to note, this Gila Monster is a captive animal. This is not a wild. This was not collected from the wild for the sake of this video. So please, if you ever come across these guys, make sure you leave them alone. Enjoy them, respect them from a safe distance, and just appreciate what a beautiful animal they are. I'd like to thank you all for watching. Please like, subscribe, we'll see you on the wild side.